We now have conclusive proof that Israel didn't bomb the Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital in Gaza, despite claims yesterday that this happened. So in this video, I'm going to show you the proof so you can see it for yourself. And afterwards, we're going to ask some unpleasant questions. Hello and welcome. We are going to start with this video here that was taken from Al Jazeera stream itself. It shows us the area over Gaza where we see missile fire, rocket fire from rockets that are being launched by terrorists, and it shows one of them disintegrating here, exploding, something like this, and shortly afterwards detonation on the ground. It is understood that maybe it might have separated, it might have fallen apart. We need to understand that a lot of the rockets that the terrorists inside of Gaza use are built locally and obviously not under the highest quality standards, as the terrorists don't require them. They don't do precise bombing. They basically just want to hit cities, and there a CEP of 2 kilometers is more than acceptable. We see here the fire that's starting. Those are the solar panels that are have been identified right next to the hospital. We have the next video here, and this is even more impressive. We see a rocket barrage starting on the right. And a few moments later, we see the explosion. So we see that it's in a direct, timely connection. No question that this is at the very least is suspicious. This was the strike on the ground. And here we have another one from another angle. We see the rockets being launched, and the hospital is here. And there you can see the subtitle. Let's just move forward here. But you see the missiles being fired, and a moment later you see the strike here. Now, of course, some of these videos appeared yesterday, but now we have pictures, we have additional pictures. This is what the Israelis showed. This is the hospital. This is the fire. It's geolocalized by them here. And a few moments later, we see drone footage that was taken from the area. The strike actually didn't hit the hospital, it hit the parking lot in front of it. Bad enough, of course, but it shows which damage was done. We see a localized explosion site. This is from 2 days earlier, so it was to compare the site of it. We see here how airstrikes look when the Israelis hit with the craters. And this was what they showed yesterday. But now we have pictures from the ground, and this is it. As you can see here, we see the picture of the strike. We see 2-3 cars with structural damage. The rest is fire damage. That explains the big fire. Cars burn really well, especially if they are fueled up. But you also see that what is on the roof of those cars hasn't even been moved. We see the windshield here. We see the glasses here. We see this car still has its glasses. We see that the trees are still green. That was a very small explosion, far away from a JDAM, anything that the Israelis would use. This is a clear sign that the damage was done not by an Israeli bomb. We see also some roof tiles missing here. This is the overall damage that was done by the strike. As said, the solar panels, everything is geolocalized. You can check it out for yourself. If you go on Google Maps, look for the hospital and look around. Now, Nathan Ruser, who made a thread about it on Twitter, I'm going to link to it in the description so you can find it yourself. It's really worth reading. He compared the death numbers with historic strikes. This was one in Baghdad that killed 350. It looked like this. This was one in Mogadishu in a full market that killed 500. And this was another one in Mogadishu that killed 125. As I said in yesterday's video, the death numbers are likely to be massively exaggerated. Most of the media ignores that the so-called health ministry in Gaza is run by Hamas. That's a Hamas organization. Hamas has a vested interest in increasing the reported number of civilian deaths because that creates political pressure on Israel to stop its offensive. And in this context, we need to say the only chance for Hamas to win this war is to make the Israelis stop before they are crushed. That's the only realistic chance. And this is, if you look in the history, basically every single time the Israelis don't get stopped by enemy's weapons, they get stopped by international pressure building up. For the Israelis, it's always about being as fast as possible in their military operations before the international pressure mounts up, and huge number of civilian casualties are the perfect way to increase that pressure. So Hamas's health ministry has a vested interest in inflating the numbers, and here we have a view from the strike on the ground. This is the crater. This is supposed to be the Israeli bomb that hit it. This is ludicrous. This is, it was cobblestone on the ground, so the crater might be a little bit smaller, but it shows how small the explosion has been in comparison to an Israeli bomb. We see some things that look like shrapnel damage in the background, so it might be a shrapnel warhead, but that shows us that the number of 500 dead is extremely likely far from reality. That doesn't mean civilians haven't died. That doesn't mean that a lot of them have died, but Nathan Ruse also shows us here a picture that shrapnel was also around, so in areas further away from the strike. The Israelis did though as themselves in their analysis. They show shrapnel here on the building. Let me just scroll forward so my camera isn't in the way. Here, shrapnel on roof this far away. So this, it seems it was a shrapnel warhead, obviously meant to harm persons on the ground. If Hamas shoots it, they don't shoot to destroy structures. They shoot to kill as many people as possible. And Nathan Ruse took the effort to simulate how many people would have to be there on the area that was struck for it to have a chance of 500 people being dead. And that if 500 are dead, you would assume that at least the equal amount of persons was wounded, which shows how ludicrous that claim is. It would have to be packed like in a concert for them to cause that casualties. And this shows that the whole story from beginning to end is a lie. The only fact is that there was an explosion, that it was a hospital, and that likely civilians died. I've seen pictures of persons, and when we come to pictures, we see we need to ask us some questions. Why was there a press conference yesterday from the doctors standing with corpses around them? Have you ever seen a press conference of medical professionals that use corpses of recently deceased victims of an attack as a prop? This is what happened yesterday, and this shows us what this whole theater, and despite the fact that a huge number of people died, we have to call it a theater, because that's what Hamas acted there. A terrorist organization created a theater yesterday to influence the world's opinion. It was successful. You've read it yesterday all over social media. You read it yesterday all over the news outlets. And the Jordanian king, for instance, canceled a meeting with US President Biden because the US support Israel, and Israel had just slaughtered hundreds in the Gaza Strip by attacking a hospital. So we see that this is in a direct connection, and the question we have to ask ourselves: why do media take claims that are coming from a terrorist organization at face value? Why do they take them as if they were facts? Why do media claim? If Hamas makes a claim, why does the media believe them? Why do they spread them around while ignoring the circumstances, while ignoring that we are talking about a terrorist organization that just claimed themselves that they didn't kill Israeli civilians on the 7th of October while live streaming their terrorist attack, while live streaming and taking videos of them killing civilians and uploading them themselves. This is the same organization that then is being believed in their claims, and we have to ask ourselves, why do media believe a terrorist organization, take their claims at face value? Do they do the same with Al-Qaeda? Do they do the same with Abu Sayyaf, with Boko Haram, or with the Islamic State? So why is it done here? This is a question we need to ask ourselves. We also need to ask ourselves this in regard to that media that took that claim and presented it as a fact that Israelis did it and that 500 people died. When even without deeper knowledge of the facts, it's clear, the pictures show clearly that it wasn't an Israeli strike, and it's impossible or close to impossible that 500 people would have died, because this would have led to basically 1,000 people gathering on the parking lot that would have been necessary for this. All of this is questions that we need to ask ourselves. The same thing with the doctors. Which kind of medical professionals do press conference in front of corpses that they arranged to be the props in the background, and which accounts on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on all those medias that you follow did take yesterday's event as a fact, claimed that Israel did it without any doubt, claimed that Israel killed 500 people. Ask yourself who did it, and ask yourself how trustworthy those sources are if they don't even bother to get to the fact of it. Now compare this to what I did yesterday, and I know you shouldn't praise yourself, but I'm absolutely confident that what I did yesterday was the right thing. Compare it to the video I made yesterday about the strike on the hospital and see how you can present things without, even when you're biased. That's all I have to say. This was a theater created by Hamas in so many ways. Lies from the beginning to the end. The false side was blamed for something that was done by Islamic terrorists. This is nothing new. As I said yesterday, missiles falling short, missiles failing is a fairly regular occurrence. It's documented well around that it's happening all the time. But yesterday it didn't matter because a lot of people wanted Israel to have bombed the hospital and didn't bother about the facts. As said, but that's how it is. Compare who you want to trust about things like this. Think about it in the future and make your own choices. And if I am the choice for that, then I obviously am looking forward to getting your subscription and you hitting the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It really helps with the algorithm. And I think a video like this deserves to be spread around. And leave a comment what you think about the whole theater, about the whole thing that's happening here. Again, I want to emphasize, yes, it's highly likely that a fair amount of civilians died. I've seen corpses myself, and those people don't deserve to die. I'm not claiming, I haven't read any claims that any serious claims that this was a terrorist camp. Those civilian deaths are horrifying. They shouldn't have died, but we also need to understand at the same time, we also need to understand at the same time, while the death in Gaza is horrifying, who started this war? This war wasn't started by Israel. It was started by a terrorist organization slaughtering over 1,300 people in a terrorist attack. Among that, a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor. Among that, babies, some of them beheaded, some of them burned alive. I've myself seen pictures of people beheaded in this terrorist attack. Rape happened, over 150, numbers up to 200 have been abducted. All of this has happened, all of this has started this war, and now the information war front is highly active, and we need to be aware in certain regards. That doesn't mean Israel's a saint. It also doesn't mean that. I've documented in the past crimes that happens there. It's possible that something like this might have happened by Israel as well. In the video yesterday, I didn't say Israel can't have done it. Watch it again if you haven't watched it again, or watch it if you haven't watched it again, or watch it again and see how I say that I think it's unlikely that Israel did it, but if they did, we'll see proof, and we'll have an explanation for them. And this explanation might not justify the bombing. There is different approaches to judging it, but in my expectation, I said there is a possibility that Israel could have struck it. Regardless, decide for yourself. If you decide that this channel is worth following, I would obviously appreciate it. And this channel is only possible because of the support of viewers like you. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. I would guess that this video is going to be demonetized again. But yeah, if you like what I'm doing, you can show your appreciation, you know how. And that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.